What's happening, guys? Welcome along to another episode of 420 News. Yes, a bit of consistency this week. We got two episodes in 1 week. Let's hopefully we get three. Three is a lucky number, isn't it? Let's go for Friday as well. But yes, guys, it is Wednesday here. It is just a little bit past 420. It's now 424. And in case you don't know what 420 is for, well, it is for civil disobedience. The highest form of protest that there is. Yes. So I just clean out my old bowl there now and get one packed up. But how's everybody out there, guys? Let me know in the hot box there how you're all doing on this fine old Wednesday here in the lovely sunny Cork City. Hopefully it's sunny wherever you are out there, but it is absolutely beautiful out there today. You kind of foolishly think, I suppose, as I did earlier today, think that the last frost is behind us. But as many well-versed gardeners know, this is kind of called the fool's summer or a fool's spring. That's kind of what the gardeners call it. Basically, it's like when you get a nice few hot days in a row in like kind of early March, late March, that kind of way. And then like April comes around and it's like bang, back into the early morning frosts again. And kill all your lovely vegetables that you've planted out. So yeah, don't be foolish like me. And when you see the sunshine like this and get all excited and think you can go out into the garden and start getting your hands dirty and planting all your favorite veggies, just wait a little bit. There's probably another bit of a frost, but it's definitely a good time to be going out there, getting your ground ready, getting down whatever amendments you want into your soil. If you're going to be working with it, like a kind of a mulch layer, get that mulch down there now. You know, if you're working with seaweeds, but you probably would have wanted it down actually a few months ago, to be fair. But anyway, this is a cannabis show, not gardening. What's cannabis got to do with gardening? Jeez, growing that cannabis is illegal. I'd hardly be recommending that you grow your own cannabis. And you know, yes, let's blaze one up, guys. 420 civil disobedience here, so. Hopefully, guys, it's lovely and sunny out there wherever you are, and if not, hopefully it's about to get cloudy wherever you are, if you know what I mean. Yes. Seeing a nice international audience gathering out there as well. I see our Canadian um, uh, I just suppose, company, viewer, fans. Yes, fan is probably the word. Temple Grower, what's happening, man? How you doing? Not talking on the crystalline entity today. Do you know what we're talking on here actually at the moment is some of Twisted Genetics variety. I was gifted some of Twisted Genetics seeds there a couple of months ago by our buddy Greenbeard, and I got those along to a buddy of mine. That buddy recently finished those, and it's quite tasty. In fairness, I know there was a mix of seeds there from Twisted, so we didn't know what was what exactly. But what I just smoked there was it's very fruity. It has almost like got a kind of an orangey mandarin type of a taste to it. It's so fruity. It's really sweet. It's lovely. But that's what I just consumed there. Possibly, I think there was possible strains there. Jungle Wreck. What else was there? Black Hole, I think, was another one. And I think there was Jungle Wreck crossed with Girl Scout cookies. But yes, that buddy done exceptionally well with those seeds there anyway, Twisted, if you're out there, buddy. And a shout out to Greenbeard as well, who hooked us up with those seeds. My buddy really appreciated those genetics. He had fun with them. Ashton, how's it going? Ashton Hudson out there as well, guys, and myself and Ashton there will be taking part in a bit of an international show, I suppose. There's plans currently in the making for a trip over to Morocco. So I get to visit some of the local farmers over there, get to view some of the preparation of the cannabis and all of that. So it would be big thanks to Ashlyn for arranging that. Without her, I'd be lost, as I know nobody in Morocco, unfortunately. So much appreciated. And yes, just a little heads up there, guys. It's something to look forward to. That's not happening until June. So don't get too excited just yet. Whilst out there, Canaman, what's happening? Canaman83 and Green Tea is out in the audience as well. What's happening, Miss Green Tea? Scatnist out there as well. Anyone else I might have missed? Santa Leon, what's happening? He says, sun is shining. Yes, it is. Sun is shining. And the weather is sweet. Ferg Grace out there, what's happening, Ferg? Peter Kelly is in the audience, Daily Talker as well, getting no notifications. What's going on? Seems to be a bit of a shadowing of the podcast of some kind happening. I wonder why they would do that with this show in particular. Nonetheless, guys, you're finding your way here, so welcome along and make yourself a home there in the hot box. Don't forget, guys, in the description of the show as well, there's a link there. If you want to click that link, you can join our Telegram group, and that 24/7 hot box is then at your fingertips all the time. So if you want to partake in that, by all means, go for it, guys. Be nice when you get over there. That's our only rule. And just to clarify that as well about the hot box, our only rule there, guys, is to just be nice. You know, it doesn't have to be PG, but, you know, it's like, be nice. If you're going to say some expletive stuff, say it in a constructive way. Gotta get a shout out to Billy there as well, whom I fell on the wrong side of a mistake that was made last week. Billy, Mr. Bonds, if you're out there, dude, please return to the hot box. Billy Bud, you're more than welcome. Sorry about the misunderstanding that happened there. We had some admin last on Monday at the last show, and they were only looking out, I suppose, they had the show's best interest at heart, and also they were mindful of kids that were possibly present in the hotbox at the time. But at the same time, you know, I kind of made those admin known and made it known to everybody else as well that this is kind of an 18 plus space. It's like, you know, kids are welcome, but it's kind of at their own risk, you know, because there could be a few F-bombs and a few bits and pieces like that there as well. And, you know, what's said in the hotbox there as well, you know, that's certainly not going to be I'm not looking to keep that PG at all, you know. If you want to drop a few F-bombs inside there, go for it. But again, as I say, like, make sure it's constructive. Make sure you're not being a CUNT, you know, one of those people. But again, you know, shout out to Billy, dude. If you're out there, make a return. And as well to our buddy Loki, another admin who recently left us as well. Loads of drama out there over the last few days, but not in bed. It was just a simple misunderstanding. As I said, the guys are the best interests of the show at heart. So that there was no hard feelings there or anything like that. So hopefully nobody's going to continue to get upset, guys. This is a loving, positive space, so let's keep it that way. Temple Grower says, Twisted is epic. Yes, certainly is. Going from those tastes there anyway, there's some good genetics there as well. Definitely, it's up there, but I don't think it competes with the crystalline entity, man. I think that crystalline entity was that was on par. Like, I really like the 8472 as well. The 8472 had a lovely taste to it, but I just think the crystalline entity just ticked a lot more boxes in terms of, like, just flower appearance, taste, smell, just, you know, just ticked a lot more boxes. Scored a lot higher in those boxes as well. Scatna said, instead of fecking compost soil, I used I got saturated with fecking mold. Oh no. But again, it might be beneficial, mold. Like, you know, mold is not always bad, except maybe when it's in an indoor pot, then that can be a bit of a pain in the hole. But outdoors, dig it into the soil there, like, you know, and as it breaks down, it's probably going to release some beneficial compounds, maybe. Content NL talking a nice crispy purple dog. Nice. I haven't ever tried purple dog, actually, have I? No, I don't think I have. I've had purple bud, purple haze, purple urkel, purple urkel. Yeah, I think that's what it was called. Few other different purple varieties, but no, not the dog. Mustawa says, I love that kind of trip to Morocco, literally on my bucket list. Well, you know, there might be a few of us heading over there already from the Cannabis Activist Alliance. I don't think it's my place to go inviting anybody else's. I've been invited by somebody else. Otherwise, I would be like all about inviting everybody. But I'm sure maybe we can get a Martin's World on tour there, and we get the listeners of the show, and we go down there, and I can revisit some of the friends that I'll make on this first trip. and I've certainly feeling that I'll be making many other trips after that. Ireland Cannabis Party, what's happening? Shout out to John O'Regan out there. Daily Talker as well. I don't know if I missed you. Wooly is out there. What's happening? Wooly says, same old Tej, may bump into Jeeb on the weekend. You will, bro. Nice, the boys chatting at each other there. Anybody else I might have missed in the hot box? Sean M, what's happening? Sean says, hello, Martin and everyone. Hope you're all high. I'm certainly not low anyway. That's for sure, Sean. I'm not low. Temple Grower says, awesome to hear, Martin. I'm definitely working on some more crosses with the crystalline entity, so should be good. Crystalline entity in A472, huh? Working on that interspecies Star Trek crossing. Crystalline entity, that is another kind of like species of some kind in Star Trek, yeah. Mustawa says, my blueberry smells absolutely delicious. Reminds me of that A472 joint shared a Cork at a protest. Fruity as F, fruity as feck, and kind of piney. Man, that A472 we got off of, it was at GV was the procurer of that 8472 that time, and he done a hell of a job. Now, I know it was grown again not too long after by a buddy of mine, and equally, done a really well done job. But there was just something about the stuff that GB, maybe it was just the day that was in it as well, down at a protest out in the park, lovely, glorious sunshine, enjoying it with good company as well. So maybe that added to the experience and made my perception seem like it was even better than what it was. But yes, that was a delicious talk that day from GB. Daily Talk says about 9 kilometre and 1 shower away from getting high. Nice. Getting there, 9k left, not long more so. Teresa O'Connell dropping in. You're not too late today, Teresa. We're still just getting through the highs, as Teresa says. Hi. I think we can get one more ball in there before we start hitting those headlines, right? As I said, I got some of this, some twisted genetics here. A possible one of 3 strains. Mentioned the strains there earlier. Jungle Wreck, Black Hole, and a Jungle Wreck crossed with Girl Scout cookies. Not sure which one it is. Mystery seed situation, but it wasn't such a mystery seed situation as we had 3 possible suspects. But again, I was told that maybe there's other phenotypes then in that. Guys, I can't wait until this prohibition ends and we can all just start growing this cannabis to, just freely, out our own back garden, in our little polytunnels, free from having to use expensive lights and cost fucking, going through the roof there with your electricity and stuff like that, and be able to share it then as well, where it's not costing us an arm and a leg, and where we're not fucking funding these organised crime gangs who don't really do much good out there in our society, really. Come on, in fairness. But anyhow. Wooly, what's happening? Zombie said it is so beautiful. As soon as I can, I'm smoking those A472. Nice. Oh, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you probably can't actually. I'll stand up. Rocking the t-shirt there from the major protest that happened at Phoenix Park back in 2020. That was a great old day out, in fairness, above there. So I'd leave it on there just to flash it there today, and give a shout out to the guys at the major protest, and also at the Cannabis Activist Alliance. The guys are partnering up, working on a number of events that are going to be happening in April. One of the events is going to be on April 20th above there in Dublin. There's going to be a march. I believe they're gathering at the Garden of Remembrance and marching to the Dáil down to Leinster House. So that's happening on the 20th of April. I believe they're going to be gathering sometime around 2 o'clock at the Garden of Remembrance, and a march then happening down to the Dáil. Speeches happening outside of the Dáil, and a bit of a protest. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know what I mean? So guys, make sure, do all that you can to be at that one. And then on the 23rd, there's going to be a kind of a picnic in the park style event. And again, it's going to be a bit easier for people to get to that week, given that it's a Saturday. But again, it's very important that people make an effort to get to the one on the 20th. The one includes a march, and ending up at the Dial. Again, it's Saturday is going to be a good protest as well, and I implore people to do all that they can to get to that one. Also, it's going to be on the 23rd of April, above in Dublin's Phoenix Park. Again, that's the front garden, I suppose, of our president. Above there in Orison Uachtaráin, isn't that the name of the house of the president? But yes, above there in Phoenix Park. I'm not too sure the time of gathering. Probably around 2 o'clock again above in Phoenix Park. And you know, the usual kind of antics there. Then again, a picnic in the park style of event. Speakers are being arranged for above there on the day, but I believe Luke Mean Flanagan is confirmed apparently on the Saturday. So guys, stick those into your calendar: the 20th of April and the 23rd of April, above there in Dublin. Both of those events. If anybody else is aware of any other events happening above the place, let me know. I think the guys at the Crown, whatever it's called there, the Crainn, over on Reddit, those guys are doing an information day. Now, I have a bit of a criticism of their post. They're claiming that it's the first fact-based cannabis campaign in Ireland, and I'm just kind of like, geez, that's a bit of a throwing stones there, really, like at people who campaigned in the past, as if like what we didn't campaign on fact-based campaigns. So again, you know, just be careful with your choice words and some of these things, you know. The guys, I suppose, they are new to the scene and what have you, like, but that's happening above there in Dublin on 420, I believe. So that's apparently Ireland's first fact-based cannabis campaign being run by the guys at Crown. So let's blaze one up and let's get stuck on into today's 420 news. Got me Torch of Freedom, Tool of Civil Disobedience. Oh, me Torch of Freedom has got superpowers. It's invisible. Oh, absolutely delicious. Like so fruity, so pleasant. Ah, tasty out. Temple Grower says planning a trip reasonably soon. Actually, maybe the next year or two. That's reasonably soon. All right, definitely TG. Gives a heads up once you actually get something booked, and hopefully you find your way to Cork. And if you do, we'll get you some of the locally grown stuff here, and we'll compare it to what's going on over in Canada. I would really value your critique of, and I'm sure some of the other local growers would too. Scatna says, and before you get the look around, you'll have a house full of us. Amy Riley also joining the hot box there. What's happening, Amy? Says, hi everyone in Martin. Hope everyone is well, just in time for a cuppa back from the shops and realised I forgot the tea bags. Oh no. Oh no. Yo, Wally. Temple Grower says, loves big stones. Stones. Are you talking about the Blarney stone? You got a big one down there and everyone to be kissing it. Steve Jones says, what happened to the volcano? The volcano is actually still there. And I was only saying it there in the last show, Steve, that I have to really get back into the volcano, as I've been hitting the bong again a bit too much, as it's just so convenient, you know. You got oh, it's so bad, you gotta wait like a minute or two for the volcano to warm up. Like, I'm such a whinge bag. The noise of the bag as well is a bit of a pain in the arse when you're trying to do a stream and it's like a bong hit is like, you know, you take it up, it's all done. With the volcano, I always kind of want to go for like 2 or 3 bags from the bowl. I always want to do them quickly as well. Because, you know, as the bowl is sitting there, it kind of is degrading away after being exposed to the heat. But we'll get back into the volcano. I've trying to get one of those whips, actually. I've been told about the whip for the volcano, so I think once I order that and get that arrived in, we'll see a lot more appearances of the volcano. I hope you're doing good out there, Steve. Anyway, and nice one for nice one for noticing that the volcano is missing. Willie says, Presley Bluestone, you can see the stars by nothing to do with all the mushrooms found right there. I lost. Creasa says the Crown guys should join the protests and hand out their flyers to people along the way. Yeah, hopefully they do. I did. There's been some of their members, I suppose, come along to past events above there. I've seen some of them at the Garden of Remembrance last year, as well as met a few of them at the Phoenix Park event too. So they have been, but none of the actual admin. I've never really met any of the admin in person, except I think above at the that event above. What where was it above in UCD? A number of weeks ago that I went to, there was a bit of a debate happening up there, and I met one of the members of Crown above there, and I believe he's one of the admins. He interviewed me not too long ago. They're sitting on that. I don't know what they're going to do with that content now, seeing as they kind of had a bit of a falling out with me over an article I published up in the blog a while back. But anyway, uh, Steve Jones says I bought a volcano at the start of December. No going back. They're great, Steve, aren't they? Though, like in fairness, like my critique of them, my only criticism of them is not even that bad. Like that, it's far outweighed by the positive. Again, my criticisms. Oh, you have to take it out. You have to set it up and get it warmed up. What's one? It's like that. That's not really much of a criticism. It's just being a lazy arsehole. With two a noisy bag, but again, it seems like the whip would actually sort that out. Like the whip is like a device that you attach to it and you suck in it apparently, and it draws in the heat and through it. I'm not too sure exactly how it works, but apparently it's a lot less noisy. So we'll see. Yeah, Rain and Rock saying a criticism there as well. Had a great time at the volcano until eventually the noise of the bags drove me crackers. Like one a really annoying thing about the noise of the bag is like you're watching a movie, let's say, and you do a bag, and then you put the bag down in the corner. The bag fucking makes noise for about like 5 minutes later as air slowly creeps back into it. You know, as it like slowly just expands a little bit. You're hearing the bag just slowly crinkle in the corner, and you're like, for fuck's sake, will that thing ever shut up? So like you can't really have it in the room while you're watching a movie. I normally have it in another room, do a bag or two, then I'm going to watch the movie. That's kind of normally how it went down. Tinkle Tink says the whip is the business. Says loved making my own volcano bags, 3 foot long. Yeah, the making your own is really cool. I've got one there that's about 2 foot long, and that's quite big in fairness. Again, the quality of the bag was a bit different. The replacement bags, this tended to be a lot more static generating. Like the bag was sticking to itself a lot more. I found than the original bags. Now, keep in mind, my original bags might have been a lot more staticky when I originally got them. I just can't remember. I got them so long ago. But that was a bit weird, all right. There was a lot more static in the replacement bags. And I found that they just took a bit more pressure kind of to go into them to expand them. But other than that, man, I love my volcano. It's the job. But unfortunately, it's just like convenience of the bong is just superb. Right, let's get stuck into some of these headlines, guys, that I have lined up for you today. We've got a couple of negative ones coming out of the Irish courts again. Look, it is what it is. We've got to do it. I can't ignore the suffering of other people out there as it happens. And the first one is again, as a father myself, I really this one really resonates with me. Having a newborn son, again, it really fucking resonates there as well. The potential of this being a reality had my son maybe been the age of the son in the story that's going to come. It's it resonates with me anyway. I don't know will it resonate with others out there, but this is a story of a father who's been jailed for 2 years after he agreed to transport some cannabis in order to pay off his son's drug debt. Now, he says in the court that his son had actually already been attacked in relation to the drug debt, and the man was told that he would find his son in a ditch if he didn't cough the money up. So it wasn't just a case of coming up with the money. It's like the guys, they were like, look, in fair, if you don't have the money, do this job there for us, go collect this package and move it from point A to point B, and we'll knock the money off. Apparently the dad had already handed over €2,000 and €6,000 still remained on the drug debt of his son. So it's a very unfortunate case. Some people will question the legitimacy of this. I don't for a second. I think that this fella named in this as a 55-year-old man. He said that he was standing up for his son. Guys, we hear the horror stories coming out of above there in Dublin, and this is where this is coming out of. This happened above there in Ballymun. So Ballymun, if you're not aware of it, like it's kind of it was definitely known as a very rough area above there in Dublin, where drug dealing and drug use and violent kind of crimes were kind of bit notorious, notoriously known for happening, I suppose. But that's where this happened. It happened last year, March of last year. The guards stopped and searched the car. They found it was 160,000 worth of cannabis. So that's, again, what's that? That's 8 kilos of cannabis, they're saying. So the 8 kilos of cannabis, for transporting this, that would have knocked off his son's drug debt. And again, I've no reason to question the legitimacy of the story. It happens above there. Again, imagine if you're above in an area where only, how long ago was it there when Cian Mulready Woods was the headlines, when a young fella gone missing, and then the next headline is, there's the part of a body found, and then there's another headline, more parts of a body found in another part of Dublin, in a burnt out car, and that was a teenager. Again, imagine your teenage son falls in the wrong, in with the wrong group. He makes friends with the wrong people who portray themselves as friends, but in reality, they're just taking advantage of the naivety of the young fella in that situation. And you think about it. If you're a young fella and a fella says, "Hey, look, I'll give you this cannabis there. You can make a €1,000 there for yourself, and if you just sell it to your friends, you yeah, fuck it. I want to make €1,000 for myself. I want a Canada Goose jacket. I want to be one. It's like there's a bit of naivety that goes with it. And this is all off the back of cannabis prohibition. You got a son lured into this kind of behaviour. You got a father then who has to kind of cover for his son. He doesn't want to find his son in pieces, in ditches around, fucking scattered around the island of Ireland. So he does this job, a simple job, just transport the package, and in this guy's eyes, it's like simple. It's just moving something. It's okay. He knew it was drugs. He says he knew it was drugs. He didn't know what drugs they were, but he said he knew it was drugs that he was moving. But he's now going to be spending 2 years in prison as a result of this. Again, keep in mind, this guy's a father. He's going to be spending 2 years in prison. His son is out there now, vulnerable again. Is his son at risk of maybe committing suicide as a result of this? Do you know, are the gang's going to come and prey upon the son as a result of this? Is he going to develop an addiction, problem, a drug addiction problem, an alcohol abuse problem, as a result of this? Who knows? But the damage really, it's all stemming from the prohibition of cannabis. If there was no prohibition of cannabis in the first place, then the movement of cannabis, it wouldn't be so valuable. You wouldn't have young people out there incurring such crazy high deaths. A young person, I'm not too sure what age his son actually was. It doesn't say within the article, but it just says his young son. But again, he wouldn't be able to generate such a debt had cannabis prohibition not existed in the first place. So that's one case coming out of Ireland, and it's a sad one because, as I say, it resonates with me. Being a father myself, I could see the potential there. Your son falls in with the wrong group, and with the best of parents, even things might fall amiss. They mightn't realise, fucking Johnny there, he's got an extra bit of cash there, he's doing a bit well for himself, and they don't realise that their son has actually been preyed upon by organised crime groups out there, and they have him selling their drugs for him, selling their cannabis edibles, selling their whatever it is that they get him selling for him. But they're only able to do it because of the prohibition that exists around these products. If there was no prohibition of cannabis, then this would be coming from reputable retailers, sold at a place where there's an age limit, quality assurance for consumers. We'd have better education out there as well around the consumption of these products. Then we'd be able to deter the age of first use, because the ability to get access to it is going to be more restrictive. But not only that, is the availability to proper education in which you're getting knowledge from a person who you trust, because they don't have to lie to you anymore. They can be honest about the consumption of cannabis. Yes, guys, the best way to reduce harms around cannabis is not to consume it in the first place. But hey, look, if you are going to consume it, maybe it's best not to actually combust it and burn it, you know? Maybe it's best to vaporize it. Or maybe it's best to actually consume it in another form. Maybe there's some other kind of form that is preferential over any form of inhalation, you know? Who knows? You know, the conversation is there to be had, but unfortunately, the just say no one is, it's only losing the trust of the young people and leaving them more at risk of making the wrong decisions around their consumption choices, you know? So again, as a father of 3 kids myself, I'm all for ending prohibition and having proper conversations around consumption of drugs with our younger, the younger people in our population, you know, and regulating the sale and supply of these drugs too. But anyway, that's just me. We'll drive on, and the next story is coming out of, again, out of Dublin, above there in Dublin. It's a fisherman who was caught growing cannabis plants at his Balbriggan home, makes a €1,000 donation. But get this, okay, the plants were discovered during a routine weapons inspection on a weapon that was legally held on the property. So this individual, for some reason or other, kind of, I really don't know what the guy was thinking at the time. The guy's named here in the article. He's 58 years of age. He's from above there in Balbriggan. He legally holds a firearm in his property, and he knows himself that there's going to be these routine inspections on the firearm and where it's held in the property. So not only did this guy bring the guard into the property where he was growing the cannabis, but he brought him into the room where he was growing the cannabis, because that's where he stored his weapon. And this guy, for whatever reason, he said that he didn't realise the illegal nature of what he was doing when he brought the guard into the room. He's just kind of said that, like, he just assumed that it was fine to do it. He didn't realise, like, that himself, that it was illegal. Or maybe he did at one point realise it was illegal, but he just became so comfortable with it that it was just like, oh yeah, they're my cannabis plants. Yeah, you know, it's just like pure blasé about it. Do you know, it's like, it's such an interesting situation, but also, you know, a very unfortunate one as well. You know, a person brings a guard into their grow room to inspect a firearm and is just like, oh yeah, there's my cannabis plants there as well. What you think? It's like, what? It's like, come on, man. How could you be so blasé? But I suppose another thing then they hit off on is the €1,000 donation. Again, like this is extortion by the Irish courts. Again, you know, it's in plain view there of the public. Guys, what's going on here is we've people getting caught of committing a crime. And then when they get caught committing this crime, their punishment is based, like, it's normally a financial one. And this is like, why do we have these crimes where the punishment is a financial one? It makes no real sense to me as such, like that it's one, and it's broken so often too, you know, that the financial punishment is not a deterrent, and the financial punishment is not even the most that they can do. You know, there's significant sentences you can get for growing cannabis, but quite often or not, it's suspended sentences, or, you know, as I say, you know, these donations for people who've not gotten caught in the first place. So this is extortion. Your man had to hand over €1,000 of his hard-earned money. This guy's listed here as being a fisherman. And I don't know if people out there realise that the current state of affairs for the fishermen of Ireland, the fisher people of Ireland, I suppose, if we want to be politically correct. But for the fishing industry in Ireland, man, it's been crippled by Ireland joining the European Union. You know, our farmers got like some great grants, great supports there, but the fishing industry, that's gone to wreck and ruin. The fishing grounds that the fishermen would once being able to go out there and make a bit of a living from are, you know, they're dying because of super trawlers coming in and sucking up all of our fish. So fishermen are getting a fucking bad. And now this fisherman had to hand over €1,000 of his hard-earned cash at a time when the cost of fuel as well. I don't know if this guy is actually running his own boat, but if he's running his own boat, the cost of fuel there is crippling the fishermen at the moment. Absolutely crippling them. And this guy is getting extorted in the courts for growing his own cannabis. Like, you gotta commend the guy, in fairness. Like, he brought the guard into his gaff and was just like pure, like, cool about it. Come on, like, in fairness, like, just give him a break. He was growing cannabis. In fairness, it goes to show how much of a non-crime it is that you could accidentally forget that it was illegal, or accidentally not even know it was illegal and be doing it. It's like, how many other laws are out there that you could be breaking and you don't realize that you're actually breaking a law? Like, everybody knows when you illegally stream something online that you're kind of breaking laws there, don't they? But yet a lot of people still fucking do it. In fairness, downloading music illegally, people still fucking do it. There's so many laws. Like, there's a few of them out there, and loads of people do it. But it's in excuse me, in Ireland, nobody's really kicking down your doors for that stuff. But when it comes to cannabis, like, geez, it's unfortunate. Like, and then you end up in the courts, and they show no sympathy. They extort you, just so you can keep your good name. And that's what's happening here in this situation. This guy had no past convictions, and because of his pro-social nature, as quoted here from the judge, she was willing to give €1,000 donation to be made to the court box as a punishment, I suppose, really, instead of a conviction, which would have left the defendant without an ability to travel to Australia to visit his son. And that's again, that's an unfortunate situation if people find themselves in that, like myself. My daughter's over in Australia now visiting family, and if I wanted to emigrate to Australia, I don't know if even going on a holiday there is going to be a problem, but certainly if I wanted to emigrate over there, I would have hoops I'd have to jump through because of my convictions around cannabis. Despite the fact that cannabis is actually legal across Australia now for medical reasons, but again, I say legal in like fucking, these inverted quotes and converted commas. Like, I've got an honours degree now in herbal science, and if I was to move to Australia, I was only actually having a conversation about this earlier today. There's probably a number of companies down there that I would happily be able to walk in and get a job off of and be more than comfortable with working within their lab, and probably be able to adapt to any new equipment that's come on the scene since then. But like, I've got it all, I've everything that's needed in terms of the knowledge that's required of a person. Just don't have the experience there just yet. But if I was to go to Australia, I would easily walk into one of these companies probably and get a job down there. But my ability to get into Australia would be difficult. It's like, yeah, I can't get in because I've got a conviction for cannabis, and like, yeah, I've got a job lined up to go do what? Grow cannabis in a factory for medical reasons. It's so funny, wouldn't it? Like, you can't get in because of convictions for cannabis, and I was getting in to do a job to grow cannabis. Ah, man, you just like this shit. Like, you couldn't make it up. Like, we drive on and. Right, Ogan, what's that? Law and legislation are not the same thing. Yes, I've definitely heard that as well before. That these laws and statutes and stuff like that they're kind of different things and stuff. Again, it just all flies over my head. It's just, look, I'm not really too into the legal aid side of things. I've looked and I've read laws. I understand them in a basic kind of in a sense, like, but again, you can really get lost in some of the legal aids that's out there, like. Daily Talker says, Amy Riley's talking about co-spiracy and stuff, yeah, and seaspiracy. Yeah, I've seen both of those. They're both quite good. I thought the co-spiracy one, yeah, I thought there was a bit of a, yeah, I thought it was good, but I wasn't. I had a few criticisms of it. The seaspiracy one is really interesting. I'd really recommend having people have a look at that. Enjoy the gardening, TG. Catch you later. Yeah, jaywalking as well. Jaywalking's illegal. It is indeed. Nobody gets pulled in for that, do they? No cops pull in and stop people for that, like. And I often see people jaywalking in front of the bloody cop cars over here. We drive on. €30,000 worth of cannabis was seized above in Drogheda. Again, we talked about Keane Mulready Woods, and again, that's where he hailed from as a young fella when he was alive. Above there in Drogheda, there was a lot of feuding caused mainly because of cocaine, I'm told, they're above in Drogheda. But here we see €30,000 worth of cannabis being seized after the Gardaí stop and search a car at 6 o'clock yesterday evening. So at 6 o'clock yesterday evening, some poor soul above there in Drogheda was having the old underpants ripped off him at the side of a road. The €30,000 worth of cannabis, that's a kilo and a half. or for people over there in the US of A, and you're working in pounds, then that would be like about £3.5, I suppose, of cannabis. £3, £3.5 thereabouts, of cannabis. So that's what they say is worth €30,000 over here. A young man in his late 20s was arrested at the scene and is detained above there at the Garda station in Drogheda under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act of 1984. He's going to appear before the courts on. He appeared before the courts actually today. It says investigations are ongoing, and there was no conclusion there as to what happened in courts. But no doubt he was brought into the courts, charged, and either released on bail to return before the courts, depending on his standing with the law. You know, has he absconded before? Is he trustworthy? Or maybe they held him in custody. They come back before the courts again at a later date. Who knows? Not too sure. That happened above there in Drogheda today. The seizure was made last night. Tinkle says, do travellers like cannabis? They do. They do indeed. I can certainly confirm that there is travellers that like cannabis. Do all of them like it? No. But like people, they're got many. They're diverse in what they like and don't like. Some just like to stick to the alcohol. Some like to be abstinent. Some like to do everything. Just like all humans, they're no different to all the rest of us. Fucking travellers labels. Let's drive on, and we're getting out of Ireland actually for a bit. We're going to look at a cannabis study. This was a recent headline that I came across, which it read that medical cannabis is linked to rapid onset of cannabis use disorder. Now again, you know, keep in mind, take that with a pinch of salt. You know, it sounds bad, doesn't it? You know, that medical cannabis use, it's going to lead to this thing called cannabis use disorder. But again, when you read into what cannabis use disorder is, the most common symptom of cannabis use disorder that ticks a box, you know, and a person then is, you know, have defined as having cannabis use disorder is them having an increased tolerance to cannabis. So again, guys, just think about that for a second. What you know about cannabis is that if you're using cannabis, you're going to develop a tolerance to it. Why? Because it's a fat-soluble substance, and it stays around the body longer. We develop insensitivities to it, I suppose, as in our tolerance goes up. And that's a normal occurrence that happens with cannabis, but they're labeling that as cannabis use disorder. And then they're putting out these kind of fear-mongering headlines around cannabis, medical cannabis, that it's causing cannabis use disorder, as if it's like, oh, these people are getting addicted or whatever. It's just like, no, actually, they're just developing a tolerance, which we know that happens with cannabis. We know that happens with cannabis, but still, nonetheless, it doesn't stop them from going out there trying to create this fear-mongering. This is the actual headline of the study. It's effective medical marijuana card ownership on pain, insomnia, and affective disorder symptoms in adults. So that was the actual title of the study that was published in the JAMA Open Network, I think it's called. Is that where it was? JAMA Network Open. So that's where this research was published. But one of the researchers involved in this, Jodie Gilman, she's a PhD and associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. She said in a press release that our study underscores the needs for better decision making about whether to begin the use of cannabis for specific medical complaints, particularly mood and anxiety disorders, which are associated with an increased risk of cannabis use disorder. There needs to be a better guidance to patients around a system that currently allows them to choose their own products, decide their own dosing, and often receive no professional follow-up care. So that's quite interesting. You know, I like, while I have criticisms of the study and the headlines and stuff like that, I wouldn't like be too argumentative of what she's saying there. I think a lot of the problems that she's highlighting here are very valid problems to be highlighting. I do think there's a need for more follow-up professional care with patients, but that can only happen at a time when our medical professionals have been educated to a level at which they can work with patients in cannabis. Until that happens, then that therein lies where the problem is. It's not the patient's fault. It's not the medical cannabis's fault. it's the system at which the cannabis is being dispensed. The medical professionals are not being trained to do it. You're going in there, you're getting advice from a bud tender, a cannabis consultant, some places call them. But still, nonetheless, like, these people don't have any real professional medical training as such. They just know cannabis. So again, it's understandable why this is arising, why this problem is arising, and why there is a better need for a relationship there with health professionals, whatever that may be, whatever that you might perceive that. But again, I don't think going into a cannabis dispensary and getting it from somebody who, again, they know cannabis because, like, oh, they're a consumer or something like that themselves. And again, I mean this in the nicest of ways. Like, I do think that there needs to be more professionalism in the dispensing of cannabis medicines to patients. I do think that. Like, I often think that there's a lot of people who are in a position where they're really only a retail cannabis person, and they're giving medical guidance to patients when they have no real training as such to do so. So I would agree with that critique of that researcher there in that statement. But again, the way in which the headlines have been made around it, it's weird. The study's also weird as well, because the study actually compares one group of patients against who get a license straight away versus another group of patients who have to wait 12 weeks before they get the license. It's a very weird design of the study. I would love to chat with one of the researchers about that study, and I'm going to make an effort to reach out to them and see if they can answer that question, as to why is the design like that. And there was also statements made where there was no significant improvement or change in pain severity or anxiety or depressive symptoms. So it also have some questions there, like, does that mean that, like, they weren't experiencing benefits from their use of cannabis? Is that what the statement is? And if so, would that not been kind of more of a headline to go with, rather than the kind of the one that they chose to, which is kind of the sensationalist cannabis use disorder. So yeah, I have more questions than answers really there for on that one. They found that although most participants develop mild cannabis use disorder with 2 to 4 symptoms, the researchers noticed that the symptoms developed over a short period, 12-week initial exposure, and the most common cannabis use symptoms included high tolerance and cannabis use despite the recurrent physical or psychological problems caused or exacerbated by cannabis. So again, this includes people, experiencing nausea, that kind of a whitey type of a feeling, kind of nausea. But what else was listed there as kind of some of the negative effects? Fatigue was also listed there as a kind of a negative effect. But again, every medicine comes with some negative effects. What they're describing here is not really that bad, really, in the scheme of things, when you look at medicines and the risks that are posed to consumers of medicines. They finish with these. The data of the study suggests that a medical cannabis card may pose a high risk and may even be contraindicated for people with affective disorders. This finding is important to replicate because depression has been reported as the third most common reason that people seek a medical cannabis card. So again, depression being the most common reason there people are seeking a medical cannabis card. So it says a lot really about cannabis and its use there. A lot of people who are using cannabis, that they're probably treating underlying conditions there. They're probably just looking for a better quality of life, looking to just relax. And in kind, then, if you're able to get relief from whatever it is that's kind of ailing you, the stress of dealing with an asshole of a boss or something like that, that's going to allow you to kind of prevent any cancers growing in your body that might otherwise grow if you were to be sleeping with all of that stress and not getting the proper night's sleep that's you should be getting, that cannabis could afford you. So that's cannabis study. That's I'm not too sure where that was actually coming out of. Does it say there? But in the study, oh, Harvard. That's where it was actually coming out of. So that's a study coming out of Harvard. The study was carried out between 2017 and 2020 It contained 186 adults aged between the age of 18 to 65. The average age was 37, and 65% were women. And they were all living in the greater Boston area as well. So there's just a little bit of background to that study. Excuse me. So we close that down and we drive on. Anybody saying anything out there? Greenbeard says, Jesus Rasher, I bet you. Think the thing says, I love the way doctors pretend to care about us. I do. Some of the doctors really do care about their patients. They're just working within a broken system. And it's unfortunate that, it's just, it's, there's not too many of us out there questioning the system. Like, it's, somebody was saying it last night. It's like, oh, why isn't there more doctors out there questioning this? And I just kind of had to make the point that, like, why isn't there even more of cannabis consumers out there questioning this? We accept this, we allow this treatment to go on. I know many people out there, and they're like, oh yeah, well, I can't be so open or out there because I might get targeted. I can't engage in this because of problems that might arise. So again, why would we expect the doctors to be doing it? I know that they should have their patient's best interest at heart and it's the right thing to do, but at the same time, they risk being ostracized within their community if they're going to be the cannabis doctor. Like, think about how stood out Garrett McGovern is within Ireland, within the addiction doctor scene. He must stand out like a sore thumb within all those doctors, because how many other addiction doctors do you know in Ireland that are actively criticising the war on drugs, the prohibition of drugs? There's no others that I can think of off the top of my head. I know he had Cahill O'Sullivan alongside him there for a while, but I think Cahill is since retired now. I think anyway. I believe that's what he said that last day. But I don't know of any other doctors who are so outspoken on this, and it's very unfortunate. Like, where's like Ava's doctor, Veritumi's daughter's doctor? Where are they speaking out? Why aren't they, being brought on the thing and talking about, how cannabis is helping a patient of theirs? They don't even have to talk about Ava. They say about a patient of theirs. They're not. Why aren't they? Like, they try to question everything. Question why the fuck aren't they telling us this shit? Like, Daily Talker says my canna use is in order. Have you seen this? They also have a tobacco use disorder. I'll pop it up on screen there now for you. I should. Do I have a saved? There we go. I do have a saved. Tobacco use disorder. Unsuccessful efforts to quit or reduce intake of tobacco. Inordinate amount of time acquiring or using tobacco products. Cravings for tobacco, failure to attend to responsibilities and obligations due to tobacco use, and continued use despite adverse social or interpersonal consequences. Like that's the tobacco use disorder. Again, you think about it with cannabis, unsuccessful effort to quit. Well, to be honest, I haven't ever really tried to quit because I don't really want to quit, because there is no real adverse effects except for the problems created by prohibition. I want to give up prohibition. Can anybody show me the door where I can exit from prohibition? Unfortunately, there isn't one, so I've got a prohibition use disorder. Inordinate amount of time acquiring or using the cannabis. I use it. How would I say? Just the right amount of time. I know my buddy Bernard, and I see that the Eating with the Enemy was recently replaying there on I think on Virgin Media, the media player. But Bernard, yeah, he said I was in denial. Said I might be drowning. Probably don't know how to swim. Hey. Craving for cannabis. Well, I certainly don't have a craving for cannabis at all. Gonna pack a bowl there now again. That's not craving it though. Like, it's just I enjoy it. Failure to attend responsibilities. No, doesn't happen. Except when I'm getting fucking dragged to court. When I can't go to work because I have to go to court. When I have to explain to my boss, hey boss, can I have the day off there next Tuesday because I have to go to the court there because I got caught with cannabis. That's again a problem of prohibition. I got a prohibition use disorder. And again, continued use of cannabis despite social things. Again, my cannabis use has not really caused me any social adverse problems. Again, the stigma around the use of cannabis has probably caused some social problems there, maybe. But my cannabis use itself has not caused any of that. So again, no, I don't have cannabis use disorder. I don't think I tick those boxes. Again, like why isn't the well? I suppose it kind of is with the amount of time using it, but yeah. What's happening, Mackie? See Mackie out there in the hot box. Roy Duggan as well says, where the USA was 25 years ago, a long way to go. I hope you're wrong, Roy, but I really do. Tingle Tink says, I mentioned to doctors about phase 3 trials from the MA. Silence. Yeah, that's all you're going to get, man. You're going to get silence and these blank stares, or you're just going to be kind of like, I'm not talking about with you with that. Daily Talker says, I only smoke when I want to. Exactly. That's very much how I feel like it as well, you know. Tend to think that, like, you know, I it's like coffee. I consume coffee in the morning. It's like, do I got a coffee use disorder because I consume coffee every morning? It's like, no. um, Tinkle Tink says it's black and white world. It certainly is. We drive on, and the U.S. President Biden, he's in the 420 news today because the Biden administration says to job applicants or to applicants for the administration, they basically have instructed them that they shouldn't invest in cannabis companies. They say eligibility may be negatively impacted if an individual knowingly or directly invests in a cannabis related growing or retail um, company. So this is coming out of the Biden administration, where they recently held this released this memo to possible people who are getting involved with the administration that, hey, look, you can't be investing in possible cannabis businesses, retail or growing or anything like that. And it says, you know, not knowing is not an excuse. It's kind of gas. But this is Joe Biden, who before he got elected was said that he was going to do right by cannabis, you know, that he was going to try to change things around, he was going to expunge a lot of people and stuff like that. But sadly, he was just playing lip service to it. Not much has really happened over there on a federal level around cannabis policy reform. Again, it's more negative stuff here, unfortunately, from the US in this part, because they're now kind of instructing that people getting involved in the administration, that they're not trustworthy. They're not trustworthy in that they won't be given positions where they would be allowed, they'd be kind of allowed access to top secret information, I suppose. Is that the right description? Um, I'm just looking at the decisions to, you know, I'm just looking at what they actually said, what the positions are. So people who be put in positions where there's going to be sensitive, yeah, they'll be exposed to sensitive information. So I don't know what they mean about that sensitive information. Are they trying to say that, like, if you invest in a cannabis company, that you're not that is exactly what they're actually saying, is that, like, you're not being respectful of rules and regulations, because cannabis is still federally illegal. So if you're involved in the Biden administration, you better respect that federal legislation. Don't be investing in it, despite the fact that there's a lot of opportunity to make money. But again, take this in contrast, right, with this headline. A GOP representative, John Rutherford of Florida, bought Raytheon stocks on the same day that Russia invaded Ukraine. So this is a representative over there, and there's no laws over there that restrict any investment in these type of companies. It's ridiculous. So again, cannabis bad, war good. That's kind of what I'm hearing from this, is that they're actively, the Biden administration is actively putting in place restrictions around investment in cannabis industry, because federally cannabis is illegal. But meanwhile, it's totally okay to go invest in the likes of Raytheon and what's the other one as well? There's another company over there along with Raytheon. Name is eluding me right now. But they're all free to be investing into these companies. Kind of, and again, you have to wonder what information is being relayed to these people. Now they did say that this investment was being made in by a third party. But again, it's just kind of interesting when they were looking at the day that this investment was made on the day that the invasion actually happened. And Halliburton, yeah, that's another one of them as well. Halliburton. There's probably a few other ones over there as well. That people are investing in, but there's no restrictions around investing in these like kind of war machine things. But when it comes to cannabis, it's like no, we can't trust you with information now anymore. But meanwhile, these guys, like this guy, he's actually sitting on Rutherford sits on an appropriations committee that's in charge of federal government spending, in a role that he's on the subcommittee for Homeland Security, as well as the Military Construction, Veterans Affairs and Related Agencies subcommittee. So again, you don't think that this guy is getting fed some information through this and he's not going to be feeding that information over to whoever his third party is doing his investments? Get out of town. Come on, this guy's, he's not infallible at all. He's joined along with at least 18 other members of Congress also, who apparently since 2020 have either held shares in Raytheon, or another one here is Lockheed Martin as well. That's another one of these defense contractors. And they've all recently traded stocks in these companies, and lawmakers stand to personally profit from the Russia-launched war at a time when President Joe Biden just signed into law a spending bill with $6.5 billion in military assistance to help Ukraine during the crisis. So again, if you're a person out there and if you know that, hey, look, he's about to sign off in the $6.5 billion package there, look, hey, come here, Raytheon, they make those fucking Javelin missiles that they're going to be spending some of that money on. It's like, quick, invest. But boys, guys, don't invest in cannabis. Jeez, don't do that at all. Like, cannabis, war bad guy, or war good, cannabis bad, guys. Repeat after me: war good, cannabis bad. Because again, it's not as if these guys are going to be out there calling for war. Or wait, actually, is this the same guy who invested in Raytheon calling for war? He's quoted here as saying, "Leave nothing off the table when it comes to Russia." He says, "What we're seeing in Ukraine is the tragic consequences of an evil and aggressive dictatorship. Putin invaded a sovereign nation for no legitimate reason, and he must be held accountable. He must be, because I'm going to make a hell of a lot of money if we do it." The US and our allies must impose the maximum possible sanctions and leave nothing off the table. In order to kind of really provoke Russia, in order to get into war, so in order to get more arms, I was like, yes, because I wonder, is Raytheon and, the likes of them developing some arms there for Russia as well? I don't know. But again, these people stand to benefit a lot. They'll make a lot of money from this war, while meanwhile, ordinary people, just the average Joe out there on the streets, they're going to die as a result of this shit. Over there in Ukraine, the unfortunate conscripted young Russian soldiers going to their bloody death. It's unfortunate. I see headlines there almost glorifying the death of, it said 10,000 Russian soldiers. And I'm like, apparently, they were only saying last week there that a lot of these soldiers are young conscripts who don't even want to be there, and now they're kind of glorifying the fact that 10,000 of them being killed. It's like, what kind of a messed up world are we in at the moment? And meanwhile, growing cannabis is bad still. It's still bad. It's like Joe Biden's going to do nothing about that. People are still locked up about it. But meanwhile, some of his own representatives within his own government are out there investing in the war machine. And he sees no problems with that whatsoever. Apparently, there's some lawmakers saying something should be done about it. But that's all they're doing, is they're saying something should be done about it, but they're doing nothing about it. And that's much actually like this next headline, which is that, yesterday, guys, marked the 50th anniversary of the launch of the Schaefer Report. The Schaefer Report was launched back in published back on March 22nd in 1972. And basically, the Schaefer report was it was a commission that was put together by President Nixon, I believe. And the outcome of the report is basically they called for the ending of cannabis prohibition. Going to pop up at screen. This was actually the cover, I believe, of the report. Marijuana, a signal of misunderstanding. The official report of the National Commission of Marijuana and Drug Abuse. And if you look in here, then this is the actual committee. So this is some of the members of the committee. So this again, guys, was put back in 1972. After, I believe they'd done 2 years of study. So it says here, yes, after conducting a comprehensive 2-year study on cannabis, its health and safety effects, members of the 13-member commission, which included 9 hand-picked appointees of the then President Richard Nixon, they determined the criminal law is too harsh a tool to apply to personal possession, even in the effort to discourage use. They said that it implies an overwhelming indictment of the behaviour which we believe is not appropriate. The actual and potential harm of the use of the drug is not great enough to justify intrusion by the criminal law into private behaviour, a step which our society takes only with the greatest of reluctance. So guys, 50 years ago, this is what they were saying about cannabis prohibition. Yesterday, 50 years ago, is when this was published. Did they do anything about it back then? No, they didn't. They were largely ignored. They ignored every recommendation, in fact, that was made by this commission, despite the fact that 9 of the 13 members were actually handpicked by the president. And that was the outcome. And still, nonetheless, they were like, no, we got to continue with this war on drugs. And again, if you think about it, back then at that era, what was going on back then was very complex, because they were using the war on drugs as a guise to invade other countries. Again, you think about America and what it is, it's an empire builder. Like, you know, they are building empires. They're in fucking more countries than, well, I don't know, China's probably competing with them. But anyway, they were back then using the war on drugs as a means to invade other countries, to topple certain political groups who were also involved in the drugs trade. So what was happening is, like, there would have been drug dealing going on in a certain area, and it would have been done by a certain group who were then funding political groups with that money. And it was not nefarious or anything like that. It was just villagers and stuff like that, local groups getting up and protecting their area and stuff. And they went in and they just chop them off at the head, you know, just like chop them up. It's brutal what kind of happened back then, and how they used the CIA and all of that stuff to invade other countries under the guise of the war on drugs. So that's why they kept in place the war on drugs back then, because it was just so beneficial to the arm of the government that was out there, you know, invading other countries, toppling political groups and stuff like that under the guise of the war on drugs. It said that the commission therefore recommended that the possession of cannabis for personal use no longer be an offence, that casual distribution of small amounts of cannabis for no remuneration or insignificant remuneration no longer also be an offence. So effectively, is what they're saying is an outright decriminalisation of the personal use of cannabis, and also a decriminalisation around the supply of cannabis, either for no money or for a small amount of money. The policy recommendations that are now commonly referred to as decriminalisation acknowledge that the use of cannabis was not altogether harmless, but wisely recognised that its potential risks to both the individual and to society were not so great as to warrant the criminal prosecution and incarceration of those who consumed it. Horrible, guys. Keep in mind, you know, that since that happened, there's been over 30 million American people arrested and put behind bars for violating state and federal cannabis laws. That's horrible, like, absolutely horrible. Over 50 years, 30 million lives potentially destroyed because of the ignorance of these people back then. You know, you had a commission that done its work, you know, 2 years, getting out there, getting stuck into it, and come back with this information that says, hey, look, the prohibition of cannabis, it's wrong, it's wrecking our society, it's actually more harmful for society, and they ignored it. 30 million lives ruined as a result. Messed up, really, like. Excuse me. It says that over 80% of those arrested over the past 3 decades were prosecuted for offences related to the personal possession of cannabis. So over the last 3 decades, 80% of the whatever percent of that 30 million happened in the last 30 years were for personal possession of cannabis, not for dealing at 80% of potentially, of just under 30 million. Mad. So think about that. None of those people would have been criminalised if even that recommendation was taken on board. Still imagine that there would have been potentially, if you were to say at 80%, so that's 4/5. What's 4/5? That would have been 20 million less people criminalised. No, that's 4/6. Anyway, it's a lot of people. And you look at it now today, 37 states over there today have legalized cannabis in some form, whether it be for medical use of cannabis or whether it be for adult use of cannabis. There's 37 states over in the US of A that have legalized cannabis, and yet still, at a federal level, there's not a budge. There's talks about it, you had Chuck Schumer. You had a few other people who put forward bills. The bills have come from both sides of the House as well. It's come from the Democratic Party, it's come from the Republican Party, and they've had bipartisan bills put forward too. And still, nonetheless, we're nowhere closer really to the federal ending of cannabis prohibition. Like, effectively, it could be done tomorrow if they wanted to go and do it, like with a few simple changes, a few simple reclassifyings of cannabis over there, remove it from a Schedule 1 controlled substance, allow it to be treated like just a regular agricultural commodity, and hey presto, it's sorted, it really is that easy, but they're making it out as if it's not that easy. All of the people in prison for cannabis crimes, get them out of there. They don't deserve to be there, like. It's messed up. 50 years of wrongfully locking people up when they knew all those years ago that it was the wrong thing to do. They knew the right thing to do was to end prohibition and to regulate this product in order to ensure safety around its consumption, but they didn't do that. They didn't do that at all. Why? And again, I say that they were probably politically motivated by other bits and pieces, This is actually the report letter that was published alongside of the report. I'm just going to pull it up on screen here now so I can see it properly myself. It goes like this. It says, to the President and the Congress of the United States. And this is coming from Raymond P. Schaefer. He's the one of the authors of this report. Again, it's titled the Schaefer Report after the Raymond P. Schaefer. As chairman of the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse, I am pleased to submit to you our first year's report in conformance with the mandate contained in this Section 601 Public Law, the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act of 1970. The report, Marijuana, a Signal of Misunderstanding, is an all-inclusive effort to present the facts as they are known today. To demythalize the controversy surrounding marijuana and to place in proper perspective one of the most emotional and explosive issues of our time. We on the Commission and sincerely hope it will play a significant role in bringing uniformity and rationality to our marijuana laws, both federal and state, and that it will create a healthy climate for further discussion, for further research, and for continuing to advance in the development of a public social policy beneficial to all our citizens. Whatever the facts are, we have reported them. Wherever the facts have logically led us, we have followed and used them in reaching our recommendations. We hope this report will be a foundation upon which credibility in the area can be restored and upon which a rational policy can be predicted. By the direction of the Commission, and it's signed Raymond P. Schaefer. So that's how the report reads, and again, as I said, unfortunately, 50 years later, that's still not being followed. Are you surprised? I'm not really. But it's mad then, because 50 years later, federal legalization hasn't happened, but yet still, nonetheless, you have yeah, I still have a headline like this. Or well, where is it? Boom, there we go. A Glasshouse Brands opens a massive new cannabis cultivation facility. So this is happening down in California, where the cannabis industries continues to grow down there. And one cannabis cultivation facility is upgrading its facilities from what used to be a 22,000 square foot cannabis outdoor kind of greenhouse facility to a 5.5 million square foot facility. Absolutely humongous. I'm going to pop up on screen there. Hopefully, no, it didn't come up. There we go. So this was their old facility. So this was the old facility. I just get it back up on screen there now for myself. There we go. This is the old facility of Glasshouse Brands. It's nearly 22,000 square foot. It's a purpose-built facility, and it was created with the process efficiency and best practices at the core of our design and philosophy. Located a short distance from our primary cultivation operations, the site is licensed for all types of cannabis extraction and product manufacturing, and is outfitted with the critical infrastructure and state-of-the-art equipment to enable the output of the industry's best at scale. There's another little photo there and a little bit about the team. But that was their old facility. This is their new facility, and I should be able to pop it up on screen. Boom. This is a little video featuring their new facility. Gonna have to mute the music as well as probably get flagged. Yes, you're all seeing that anyway. Guys, I packed the ball a while ago and I forgot to hit it. So this is some of the cannabis being grown at their their old facility. And you see here, they're taking a plant out. And what they're going to do with this plant here is very, very interesting. They're labeling it. And now it's getting hooked up with its own little special kind of rig. And they're attaching it to a drone. And they're flying it from their old 22,000 square foot facility across California to their new 5.5 million square foot facility. Absolutely humongous. So it's taken a little detour along the way. Apparently it's visiting some of their downtown marketing offices, showing off some of their employees here as well as the videos kind of going through. Again, there's a little bit of ambient music kind of happening here in the background for you. I'll see if I can put her up there without getting flagged. Oh, that's coming through my other speaker. There we go. Absolutely huge. Like, look at that. Like, look at that facility there. Like, I'm going to turn that music off. It's not worth getting flagged over. But look at this. Look at that. Like, look at the scale of that. Just greenhouses as far as the eye can see. Like that's an incredible achievement to be able to make, because that's going to allow them to really compete out there and to really bring down the cost of production of their cannabis. Because this is going to allow them to grow their cannabis in an environment where they're no longer so heavily reliant on artificial lighting, in an environment that's so adapted for cannabis growing that they're going to be able to get some a number of crops out of there every year, given that they'll be growing particular varieties. It's said here that the 5.5 million square foot facility that's located on 165 square acre property in Ventura County, California, is the first place, in the first phase of developing the facility from its previous use of growing vegetables. So this facility was previously home to a vegetable garden, and now it's being used for growing cannabis. Like, think about that. Like, if that was once being grown carrots or something like, or tomatoes. Like, think of the difference there now, and the bump in income from that same facility. Like, cannabis is an incredible crop. Like, but anyway, it goes on to say that Glasshouse has converted the 1.7 million square feet of the state-of-the-art cannabis cultivation a state-of-the-art cannabis cultivation. Included in the first phase retrofit is the conversion of the 2 greenhouses, one of which will consist of a nursery for clones to support the entire facility, and the other which will be used for flowering and have a capacity of approximately 180,000 dry pounds of cannabis per year. 180,000 dry pounds. That's a lot of cannabis. Again, you're talking about 60,000 kilos. Like, take a little. It's 2.2 pounds per kilo. So just less than that. What should I say? 60? 90. Less than 90. Mad. The chairman and CEO Kyle Kazan says the initial offerings from the new cultivation facility, which are expected to be ready for harvest in the third quarter of this year, include genetics representing several varieties popular with breeders and consumers in California. Excuse me, guys, getting a bit clammy there now. Just gonna hydrate again a little bit. Oh, so the CEO, Kyle Kazan, he says, we're thrilled to have delivered some of our favourite strains from some of the industry's best breeders in our inaugural 30,000 clone delivery to the Southern California facility. First Class Funk, Jealousy crossed with Kush Mints, Skittles crossed with Kush Mints, and Mac 1. They're the 4 varieties that are going to be included in the first production phase, and looking forward to including other varieties as production continues to grow. It says, as production ramps up, we'll continue to explore new technologies and modalities of enjoying cannabis, which we believe in the long run will be the reason that the regulated marketplace outpaces the legacy market. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over there in the years to come with cannabis. There is a dropping currently over there that's been reported in the media over there as well. It's a headline I didn't get ready for today, but it was another headline I came across, is that the wholesale price of cannabis is coming down, but unfortunately the retail price of cannabis is staying the exact same. So some producers are complaining that they're getting leaned on heavily by the retailers. So some retailers are pressuring cannabis producers into selling their cannabis for a lesser wholesale price, but that savings that are being made there by the retailers are not being passed on to the customers. So that's a criticism that's been made over there. I believe it was coming out of Mississippi, if memory serves correct, where I was reading that headline. Didn't get that one ready for you today, but I just remembered it off the top of my head. So we drive on then, guys, and we'll get your comments there in a couple of seconds, guys. Let me know what you thought about today's 420 news. But we've one last headline for you, and it's a positive one, but it's only a positive one for the people, I suppose, who are benefiting from the headline. This is the headline, and hopefully it pops up there now. Yeah, I was the wrong size. Excuse me. This year's 420 cannabis celebrations are predicted to double cannabis sales, and this is coming from information that was from data that was processed by a company called Headset, which regularly release reports around the cannabis industry. And on March 15th, they released a report titled Understanding 420 Cannabis Holiday and Consumer Purchasing Trends. And the report projects that 2022 will be one of the biggest holidays yet for cannabis sales. It says the data is collected by Headset's own software, which examines real-time sales from participating retailers. April 20th has been the largest single day for retail cannabis sales each year since legalization, with one notable exception. which one? I don't know what the exception is, though. They don't actually allude to what the exception is. So we understand that it's a pretty darn significant day, they say, and the report states in its introduction, we also know that there are some consistent patterns in 420 each year, with sales surges and customers enjoy massive discounts, and certain categories are more popular than others. Referring there, that's in certain categories that, like, women tend to go for pre-rolls and stuff like that, whereas guys tend to go for flowers and stuff that, there's less purchasing pre-rolls by guys. Some interesting trends being pointed out there, between just the different demographics within the population. But again, they're predicting this year that the sales are going to increase by over 100% compared to last year. And that's a bold claim to make when you look at the sales there. This is a graph of the sales over there in the US. And you can see there, that there's significant sales being made. It's actually doubled since 2017. So I believe the graph there is short from 2018 to 2021. So 2018 and 2021, there's a doubling there in that time period. But this report is predicting that this year is going to see a doubling of this one. So I believe that that's showing there about 170 million. I can't really see it up on my own screen. It's like, I don't know, let me get it up on my own screen. Forgive the delay. 1 second. Boom, there we go. Yeah, 170 million. I was fucking on the ball, but memory serves correct. It's just all blurry on mine. It's very small. 170 million that was made last year. So they're predicting that this year the cannabis industry across the US of A and in Canada is going to be bringing in, in just the USA is going to be bringing in over $300,000. That's or $300 million. That's a big claim to be making. They also predict that Canada is going to see a 50% increase in sales around 420. This is looking at a 4-week period before 420. So these are the sales that are being made in that 4-week period, because obviously they're not just going to look at the one day. They're not just going to go in and go, oh, how much did you sell on 420? Because a lot of people have already bought their cannabis by 420. So they look at 4 weeks before it, and they compare that to other months then as well, So they were looking from the end of March right up until April 20th. And what they're finding is that there's a big bump every single year around 420 in cannabis sales. And they predict this year it's going to get even bigger. And the reason they predict it's going to get even bigger now this year is because of the 2-year pandemic. You see the growing number there that continued even throughout the pandemic. They reckon now that the pandemic is over, restrictions have largely gone away, that this is going to only just invite more consumption of cannabis through events that will be held. So they're going to see a big bump up in these numbers this year. Happy days for people over there in the US of A and over in Canada. Shout out to TG, gets to partake in illegal 420 festivities. But over here in Ireland, we're going to be out marching and protesting. Free the weed, free the weed. Fuck's sake. It's depressing when you think about it, like. But that's the reality that we're living in. But that's our 420 news for today, guys. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the few headlines that we got through. Forgive me for being a bit still fucking a bit gunged up, I suppose, really, from that COVID shit. It's definitely left me with a bit of a but other than that, I'm all good. It's been nearly over 2 weeks ago now since we dealt with the COVID. And I suppose on that topic, actually, I had to email the courts this morning because I had a court date today, but I'm still in self-isolation officially. So I wasn't able to attend the court. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully they'll send me out another court date and I can go down there and have an old day out off them. But yeah, we didn't go to court today because I'm in self-isolation. Romania Dazi says, "Hi Martin, we have spoken a couple of months back. In the last couple of weeks, the campaign for weed decriminalisation and legalisation has ended in Romania. The people that were working on it just quit. Shit, that's unfortunate to hear. That happens from time to time. People get burnt out within this kind of movement. Sorry to hear that, man, but hopefully more people will kind of pick up the flag and join you in the campaign." GB left the building as well. See you later, GB. John Phantom says, "I'm going to take time to make a hemp whip to whip these prohibitionists with. I'll cite Jesus as I do it." Roy Duggan says, "Men can be woman of the year." And Green Bear says, "Well, the dragon is breathing fire. Laugh at how they got it, bounce, guys." Rasher says, "Mind-boggling numbers." And to think, all of that money that was made throughout, like even in that small period, going back before legalization happened, all that money was going into the pockets of criminals, hundreds of millions of dollars every year going into hundreds of billions of dollars every year going into the pockets of criminals. No, it's going into a legal industry. Happy fucking days. Why aren't they doing something federally about it? I don't know. Like, you see the fact that they were told to do it 50 years ago. Like, I got a bit ticked off last night, I suppose. I was at the Cannabis Activist Alliance meeting last night, and I did get a bit frustrated because we were talking about the 420 protests, and basically, like, we're going to go up there, we're going to march through the streets, we're going to say our thing, free the weed, that's great, legalise cannabis, we'll have speakers there, we might smoke a few joints out in public, we might get a few photos, but we go away again at the end of the day. Like, there's no real bold statement being made on the day. I just can't help but feel like, there's a lot of effort and it's been wasted, like, that we've a huge potential there to capitalise off of, and there's nobody willing to try to capitalise off it. Like, I was saying it again last night. I was just like, civil disobedience needs to be at the core of this. It really needs to be a central part of the campaign, of the movement, that it needs to be said, like, bring your own cannabis, like, that people should be actively encouraged to bring cannabis to this event, to consume it illegally in defiance of the law. That needs to be a central statement of the thing. And it's just like, but people aren't willing to do that. I'm not willing to do that, and it's just like, it's just a real ball breaker, because I'm campaigning now. I'm going to these events for 14 years, 15 years actually. I'm doing it since 17. I'm fucking 32 now. Going on 33 this year. And it's just frustrating now at this stage. My patience have really, really, really been stretched thin. And I'm just really getting tired of it, like. And that's to be that very honest, like, I'm really getting tired of it. Like, to be honest, I was very close there about a month or two ago to saying, I'm quitting all, I'm doing no more, I'm not showing up to court, I'm not doing anything, I'm not doing a podcast. I was really feeling burnt out, because as I was saying, I had a lot of stuff going on there with my family, and my family is very important to me. It's the most important thing actually to me, as important as this is to me and getting on with my life. But I was really at my wit's end. I wanted to just give it all up and just turn everything off, switch the phone off, and just be done with society. If the cops want to come kick in my door and take me away, then fucking so be it. We'll deal with that when it comes to it. I'll kind of be like all of the other closeted people out there. I'd like, I don't want to go back to that, but just I don't know, man. It's blissful being in that position, not being outspoken, not being out there, campaigning. It is blissful being able to stay home and, have a job and all of this shit, like, and not worry about campaigning. But I didn't quit. I felt like it. I came close to it, but I didn't. But yeah, I suppose that resonates with something you said there as well, Romania. Like, people do feel very burnt out about it. Roy Duggan pointing out how many small craft cannabis farms will go out of business because of this scale. No, you're dead right, Roy. That will happen too. This is kind of the nature of the beast over there. That's a vertically integrated company, much like Foxworthy Farms is a vertically integrated company. And I was talking to Martin O'Brien about this, and he says that's the only way companies are actually going to survive over there. That small craft cannabis farms, they're just being bought up by companies. I have to go there, guys. I'll be back in a sec.